Why him?
I don't know. They just said he's coming in, and what could I do? After your recent prize as the country's best bottom, I thought you might come on backwards, actually. But was there a prize for that award?
I was so flattered to get that award, a bit like the award you were saying you got earlier. It was something I've striven for most of my life.
Yeah.
And to actually have that huge cup. Unlike you didn't get anything at all. I got a huge cup. It's sitting on my mantelpiece in all its glory.
You recoiled, of course, when you saw your friend Paul. You've been working together quite recently, haven't you?
Yes, we had the last time we worked together was disastrous. It was so awful. Because I know Paul, I found it very difficult interviewing him. And I had to interview him about his snooker prowess, which not much there, I can tell you. No, the snooker I'm talking about. And I had heard he'd been having trouble with his Q extension. And I thought I was determined to get him, so I was trying to get the sentence out. I hear you've been having trouble with your extension. And it backfired on me completely because, of course, Paul here just sat there very calmly while I was the one that had hysterics. So we never actually got that question out, and we were laughing so much they had to stop filming for half an hour, send us out into the garden to cool off. But it wasn't just us, it was so infectious. Even the cameraman was shaking.
Yes, it was a magic moment. But I'm glad we went out into the garden.
Yes, that's another story, by the sound. Of all the sports that you have tackled for the programmes you've done, Anneka, I mean, which did you enjoy least?
I think potholing was the worst thing I've ever tackled. I've always had great faith, you see, in the thought that wherever I've got to go, a film crew's got to go, and usually film crews, they're quite a human crowd, aren't they? You know, they like to get back up to the pub and have a drink and don't like to be too wet and uncomfortable. But I wasn't warned about this crack BBC team that got sent along for this expedition, the sort of team that had been up Everest and into war zones, and a real crack A team, and it was real boys' own stuff, and they just thought this was like all their Christmases coming at once. And I thought it was a practical joke they were playing on me, because the producer had said at the beginning, don't worry, you'll love it down there. It's the sort of cave I could take my grandma into. I'd love to meet his grandma. It was just so appalling that I was actually sort of shedding tears, and I couldn't believe they were all loving it so much.
Are you often required to dice with death, then? I suppose you are.
Well, Yes, the trouble with most of the things I do, I don't realise it's going to be dangerous until I'm in the situation. Like Treasure Hunt, for example, it sort of happens to me without me even know it's going to happen in advance, because they're so secretive about the whole programme. But I did actually end up in hospital after one of those shows. We were at Hickstead Racecourse in Surrey. I don't know why I'm smiling, it was terrible. But I ran onto the racecourse and this horse just bashed right into me and knocked me flying. And had I not been wearing all that weighty equipment that I wear sort of strapped all around me, I don't think I'd be here on your show tonight. But
must have thought you were a suffragette or something.
To give you an idea, the real boy's own flavour of that programme as well is Graham, the cameraman, rushed up and said, "That poor horse, is it all right?" And Frank, the video engineer, came up and said, "What have you done to my equipment? It's absolutely bashed." So I actually did end up in hospital, though, but I never got any sympathy.
Oh, you wouldn't. No. Now, I suppose your family must live in a permanent state of terror for you.
I think it's my mother mostly, and because most of the things I film go out months. I mean, stuff that's going out now, I filmed probably back in June or July. So all her anguish is sort of rather misplaced, and that she's agonising now on stuff that I agonised on 6 months ago. Yeah. But she often rings up Malcolm Hayworth, the Treasure Hunt producer, and has a go at him and makes him swear never to do anything like that again. Yes, don't worry, come in, we must have lunch sometime.
Yes, mothers are, thank goodness, very supportive. Yours is very supportive, Paul, isn't she?
Yeah, my mother is very supportive. The only problem with my mother is that when she comes to see anything that I'm in, she's very embarrassed about saying how good or bad I was. She always says, "I thought that fellow, the fellow who played was marvellous."
Yes. My parents are exactly the same. They're quite critical, but if they actually say they've enjoyed something, I feel like I've got an extra brownie badge. I mean, that is really saying something, because they don't give a lot of praise. I suppose it's good, because then you do appreciate it if something is vaguely right.
If it ever comes, yeah.
Yes.
Did you always want to be in front of the camera?
I think I did. I keep trying to think back. I think it was something everyone always imagined I would do. Everyone always used to say, "Oh, well, she'll go onto the stage." Not that I've gone onto the stage, but it's a burning ambition I've always had. And as soon as I was old enough to get a job, I wrote to the BBC and joined the BBC, but very much on the sort of making coffee and hanging up coats and typing script side.
How did you achieve your ambition of being in front of cameras?
Well, I had to go to the other side of the world and work in Hong Kong for a few years. But before that, the BBC did give me a chance, actually, when I was about 18. One producer there needed a presenter to do a pilot for a programme called On the Farm, or some children's programme. So he whisked me off to Wales for the weekend. Not one of those weekends, but it could have been, I suppose, but it wasn't. Never mind.
Perhaps he'll ask you again.
You never know. Anyway, we did a pilot, and I thought it went OK, but he called me into his office the week later and said, I hate to be brutish about this, but you haven't got a career in television, you've got a funny face. And he sort of took my mouth to pieces. OK, I know I've got a funny face.
You've got a lovely face.
No, well, anyway, he thought I had a real crisis with my teeth. And he said, go and get your teeth fixed, but even more important, go and get me a cup of coffee and don't bother.
And shall we go down to Wales again for another weekend? Yeah, absolutely, sure.
Yeah. But he actually wrote to the head of the department a letter saying, I have to put this formally because I know Anne is very keen on doing something in front of camera, but if I was you, I'd stop it here and now. There's no hope.
What did the Chinese make of you then, this Hong Kong experience?
They thought my name was hysterical. I'm sure that's the only reason I got a job there.
Yeah.
I read the news on television there for a while, which was an experience in itself, because unlike wonderful studios like you have in Britain, there it's a real do-it-yourself show. You control your own auto cue. You have a foot pedal, and if you put your foot down too heavily, you've gone from Beirut to
sneeze.
Peking.
Yeah.
It was a disastrous. It's a bit like learning to drive and trying to speak at the same time. But every time I walked into the studio, and this went on for 1.5 years, they fell about laughing and used to say, Yamo fan, which means, have you any rice? You see, any rice. And they fell about it. And I used to have to go, very funny. Actually, I remember one night my chair broke in the middle of the bulletin. And it was a terribly sad story. I remember it, and it was, something I felt very strongly about. So, no, Paul, it's not funny. And suddenly, I felt the seat just sink. It was on one of those rotating things, and it just went... And I had to sit. When you're doing skiing exercises and you sit against it, I had to sit like that for the full 20 minutes. I was in agony. But no one sort of came to help. They just said, oh, yamo fan, hee hee. So I think that sort of training actually puts you in stead for anything. I mean, you can even... Actually, it doesn't, because I still couldn't cope with him, you see. So it just shows you can never be sure.
No. More challenges to come. Your friendly and open style, I mean, that must get you some interesting response from the public. What sort of things do the people shout at you in the street?
It's usually, where's your helicopter? But actually, I do get some very alarming ones on the night that Treasure Hunt goes out. People... happened actually yesterday or the last week. Someone shouted, hope you get it tonight. I went, thanks. And then I couldn't think what they were talking about, but people seem to get very involved in that. And,
yes.
I hope I did get it that night. I don't remember. I
think you probably did.
I think we won £1,000.
I may not want to hear the answer to this, but Paul, what do people shout at you?
Actually, they don't really shout at me very much at all. Occasionally I get, where's pen, things like that, and leave my wife alone. No, I don't get anything.
It's funny, some things are unanswerable. People used to shout at me, give us a clue, and you...
Yes.
What can I possibly say?
Well, that's the awful thing. You'd think you'd have a whole host of very witty responses, but you don't. Every time it comes as a complete shock, and you go, oh, no.
You are a very busy lady. It must make a great change for you tonight, not being on television.
I have to say, I am sorry. I really am sorry. I have sort of been on rather a lot lately, but the trouble is that it's not my fault. All the series I do, as I say, I filmed months way back, probably last year, and they all get put out on exactly the same time. And some weeks it's sort of every night there's something different. But I can promise you, in about 2 weeks' time, I'm disappearing again.
We are not complaining at all, and I'm delighted, as we all are, to see this very attractive outfit and to see your knees. And I must ask you about that intriguing bruise in just a moment. Thank you very much, Anneka Rice.